the best driver, or is it just for a small part of us? Do you know that most F1 drivers out there hate racing alongside him? Well, why do you think that is? Why don't we take a look at it, huh? Let's go. Max is an incredibly gifted driver. He won everything from karting and advanced from F3 to F1 because he was that good. He was also the youngest driver to ever compete in F1, the youngest to ever win, and just look at him today, driving the second best vehicle on the field to victory after the triumph. And you could say Max is a wizard behind the wheel, and few individuals, aside from Charles and Lewis, can match his sheer brilliance. But this wizard got some real haters. Why? Well, that is what we are going to see. The first reason could be that for all his strengths, Max isn't the nicest person. On top of his game, the 23-year-old is daring to express his thoughts. This quality distinguishes him among drivers and is critical to his success with his Red Bull team. Don't get me wrong, I admire him and I think he's a lot of fun, but he comes off as arrogant a lot of the time. He's been thrown from the podium twice, which the commentators claim that's never been seen before. When asked if Nelson Piquet had offered him any ideas for winning the WDC, he said he didn't need any tips because he already knew how to win. He says, "I don't know about you, but being honest doesn't harm, even if you are the best driver." His honesty and self-analysis go beyond many drivers' meaningless words. The small, awkward teenager who clambered into the Toro Rosso has long since vanished. He has matured in public, and while his looks still show off his youth, his confidence and power are undeniable. He is a man who understands the significance of competing for the championship against the best drivers of his age while being completely unafraid. What some saw as arrogance in his youth is now calm self-assurance. The second reason is that he's an aggressive driver. Max understands how to put his opponents under strain, but they've caused a lot of problems in the past. While Copse in Silverstone 2021 was not his fault, Monza 2021 was something he and Hamilton might have averted. Furthermore, the FIA outlawed the small technique he employed at the end of a safety car because it's simply unsporting. And I've heard some people suggest that Max doesn't deserve to win the WDC in 2021. While I believe that the rules were broken for entertainment purposes, and Hamilton should have won if the rules had been followed, Max absolutely deserved the WDC. He wasn't the only one who modified the regulations, and he wasn't the one who pushed Latifi into a wall, resulting in a safety car issue. Max won by playing with the cards he was dealt. And also, Max Verstappen used to irritate his F1 competitors by cutting across them in the braking zone. According to Joe Leon Palmer, a former Renault driver who competed against the Dutchman at the highest level of racing for 2 seasons, the 22-year-old racer famously calculated the cost of pushing full throttle on Turn 1 of last August's Belgian Grand Prix, colliding with Kimi Räikkönen's Alfa Romeo in an accident that caused his race to end prematurely. Palmer, on the other hand, claims Verstappen possessed another characteristics that enraged his opponents and caused him to loathe him in the past. During the Race Everything Star Cup esports event, Palmer admitted all while criticizing a couple of tense incidents involving Sebastian Montoya. When it appeared that the Red Bull driver had lost control of his car, he managed to thread the needle. For many of us, he always comes at Turn 1 looking completely out of control, and any other driver would have wrecked 5 times by the time he entered Turn 1. But he just keeps getting away from the other cars and threads the needle. The third is that he was considered completely overrated and immature before 2018. If you guys take a look back, Verstappen was absolutely immature before Monaco 2018. He was making issue after issue as if he had 30 years of experience and 10 crowns to compete for. He was not encouraged to see his mistakes because Red Bull did not allow him to compete in the championship. And Red Bull management demonstrated with Vettel that their tolerance and ability to give clearance was very high when they identified you as their next star when compared to how they usually treat drivers. But everything changed in Monaco because it was the only circuit with the greatest Red Bull vehicle. Ricciardo was also faster than him, so Verstappen worked hard in FP3 to find a way to take qualifying, which certainly ended in the wall after a minor mistake in the swimming pool. It's to be expected in Monaco. His car was ruined after the result of his qualifications. That is, although he started from the rear and was forced on scoring points, Ricciardo was making the race of his life despite having hydraulic troubles that would have lost him victory on another circuit. Ricciardo left Monaco in 2018 as the hero, having completed his redemption journey on the most watched, most famous, and maybe most tough track on the calendar. Verstappen came out as an immature teenager who couldn't accept that he was weak that day. Oh, and this is the perspective of an experienced analyst and not just mine. Many haters typically hate what has big talent and what they do not have, framing Verstappen as hyped and arrogant, incapable of delivering the day he is asked to, and wasting points for Red Bull at what should have been a 1 and 2, to the point of mocking him for being busy overtaking Williams instead of being into the podium, and joyfully realizing that Ricciardo would have defeated him anyhow. People still love Ricciardo because he grins, is humorous, Australian, cool, quick, good-looking, and tanned. That is what they aspire to be. Verstappen was utterly shocked by the humiliation, because I'm sure he questioned himself at the moment, and he eventually began to mature. The rest of the year saw him ultimately out-qualifying Ricciardo most of the time, finishing higher than him most of the time and outscoring him significantly due to Ricciardo's repeated DNFs for technical reasons. Verstappen getting the better of Ricciardo was quite natural. People tend to overrate Ricciardo because he's a lovely man, which has nothing or very little to do with racing potential. Ricciardo is fantastic, but he is not the finest available material, as Verstappen is. Ricciardo was well aware of this, and he had Max Webber predict what may happen in a title match for him. In Race to Survive, Christian Horner stated that he escaped from a scuffle. He really nailed it. Horner was diplomatic, even Englishly courteous and suitable, implying that it would have been argued, but not meaning that Ricciardo would be controlled by Verstappen. But I believe he knew it deep down. So Verstappen forced Ricciardo to defeat in Renault in order to calculate the sole extremely remote chance of being world champion. Anyways, before winding up, I would like to say there are always two sides to this answer, yes and no. The case for yes is that people talk about him as if he is on a different level than everyone else, even if it is not evident that he's the greatest modern driver. The case for no is that Max Verstappen is a one of